Hello everyone, welcome back to the Celtic Way. I am your host John McGinley. We've got a different type of show today. It's a new season, lots of changes around the Scottish Premiership, so I thought it would be worth doing a little bit of an opposition focus series. And to help us launch this new endeavour is David Irvine, journalist from the Herald, but also the founder and editor of the Buddies Briefing newsletter. Very much a St Mirren fan. David, how are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing well, thank you, John. Pleasure to come on and just kind of look ahead to the start of the season getting underway.
Yeah, so, I mean, what's been going on at St Mirren this summer? It seems to be a summer of gradual change, evolution of what Stephen Robinson's doing rather than a radical overhaul of what was done last season.
Yeah, I think every season for St Mirren there's going to be a natural kind of changing of the squad. You're going to lose your best players, if you like, when their contracts are up and have to try and recycle and find the gems again and kind of go over that process again for another year, if you like. So it's been gradual, but it's been busy and ramping up in the last couple of weeks. I think it's now up to 11 players coming in overall,
Okay.
which is a sizable amount. And realistically, 9 going out, but probably 5 real first team players who have left. So yeah, a bit of a different St Mirren team you're gonna see this season, but with a lot of the same principles that have always been there under Stephen Robinson.
And are you one of those supporters who's excited by that change, or do you find trepidation when you see a turnover of players like that?
Yeah, I think it's reached the point now where you just expect it, so you can't really get too attached or anything like that. When a player's doing well, they're going to move on, and that does help the club as well. So excited to see new players, but also cautious and cautious in my optimism because the bedding in process, if you like, can always take time.
Now, I've not seen St Mirren play this season yet, but I've been following some of their results and their progress in the League Cup, etc. One player who seems to be sticking out is Cillian Phillips, who recently became a full Republic of Ireland international, has joined St Mirren on a permanent basis. He seems to be the man hitting the headlines for you guys at the moment. Has he been the standout player of the summer so far, and is there hopes that he can kick on to another level this season now?
Yeah, definitely. He's been the standout. Even going back to his loan spell before it became a permanent transfer, he just stood out as soon as he arrived. Very quickly, he was earmarked as someone who is very much a Stephen Robinson player, and that's just proven to be correct. He's just he's a perfect microcosm of kind of what this team is, which is really hard working. Of course, the physical aspects are there as well, but when he's on the ball, he can play as well. And the start of this season, as you mentioned, he's got a few goals. I think he's got 4 already, which matches his best tally for any season. So that's always a good sign to get it in practically pre-season in the League Cup. So yeah, he's going to be an absolutely crucial part of the St Mirren team this year and the next, hopefully. But I wouldn't be surprised to see clubs sniffing around him, certainly at least by January. He's been that kind of good and important for the team.
It's interesting. And you're talking about a big turnover of players there. Is there any sign that Stephen Robinson's changing the St Mirren system? As far as I'm aware, it's a kind of 3-5-2, sometimes a 5-3-2 kind of hybrid thing. Is that the route that Stephen Robinson's continued to go down and fitting players into that system rather than changing it for the players who've arrived?
Yeah, you'll still see a 3-5 or a 5-3, however it kind of works, whoever you're playing against. The only difference really this season could be with Toyosi Olasanya leaving. It's changed perhaps the dynamic of the front 3 or 2. You might see more often now a kind of back 5, 2 midfielders, and then 2 wingers in behind the striker, because Mika Mandron's really the main option, if you like. So kind of guaranteed to be the number 9 for the season ahead. So the principles of the back line, exactly the same. The fullbacks will try and race up the wing anytime they can. But a lot of the same kind of principles that have been in place that have led to such success over the last few years will really still be clear to see. So not a radical change in any shape or form, just maybe small tweaks to the front line.
I'm not sure if this is just me personally speaking or I'm speaking on behalf of other supporters, but there's always an appreciation of the work that St Mirren are doing. It feels like they're fighting above their kind of spend in a lot of ways, and very much a community focused club. I think people admire the work that Stephen Robinson is doing. There's just a good feeling around St Mirren at the moment. They seem in tune with their supporters. It's very much an aligned, ambitious thinking, moving forward each year type situation.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's fair to say in modern history, if you like, it's probably the best bond that there's been. That kind of knitting of the community, the club, the supporters. It just seems so in sync at this point in time. Stephen Robinson does have a lot to do with it. Keith Lasley as well has done a lot behind the scenes. And just when you think back to when Stephen Robinson first arrived, it was a really difficult time. I think it was 8 or 9 games, just really, really struggling. So the turnaround from there, something just clicked and everything's fallen into place. Of course, we've been helped out by Hearts have had struggles, Hibs as well, Aberdeen. But certainly the building blocks are in place and it's evolving slowly and really going in the right direction for the club, and it doesn't appear that that's going to change anytime soon.
As you've alluded to there's a lot of energy around a lot of teams in the Scottish Premiership this summer, particularly. In that sense, how are your expectations and ambitions for the season ahead? Because, like you say, Hibs are on an upward trajectory after their strong turnaround last season. Hearts have new energy around them. Aberdeen just won their first Scottish Cup in decades. It's all happening for a lot of clubs, and I guess the challenge for St Mirren now is trying to keep up with that.
Yeah, definitely. There's always been kind of one of those clubs that's had an off season, if you like, in the last few years. It just feels now going into this season that you're almost guaranteed places 1 to 5 in the league are just locked down already by those clubs. So it's really a case of trying to punch above your weight again against the likes of kind of Dundee United, who are probably the favourites for that position. So it's trying to compete with them and go top 6 again. By no means would be finishing 8th a failure at all, but the expectations have risen to a top half finish being a good season. So I think that will be the ambition again. But I also think for Stephen Robinson, a real big thing and the only thing he's missed really in his time at the club has been a cup run. So I think that will be in the forefront of his mind as well, because the club's not been to Hampden in a while now. So I think that's also going to be a major objective going into this year.
I've tiptoed around it a little bit here, David, but on Stephen Robinson now, from the outside looking in, you're looking at the job he's done and you're thinking this guy might be on his way somewhere in the near future. So I have to ask, what are your thoughts on Stephen Robinson's situation and where this might develop over the next 12 months?
Yeah, it's natural he's going to be linked with other jobs. He's done too well and punched above his weight so well that he really should be in contention for a lot of jobs. I think he has settled in Paisley by all accounts, himself, his family, and he is well backed and probably in a place where he's not had as much support and appreciation as maybe when he was at Motherwell. So I think there's reasons for him to stay, but equally, you'd be remiss not to say that big clubs will be taking notice of him. I think Plymouth, QPR, and Huddersfield were linked with him, but never really got past kind of a shortlist stage, if you like. So clearly, clubs are taking notice, but I just think they've held off for one reason or another, whether they're put off by the reputation he's got, which is unfair a lot of the time. Or whether it's not as exciting an appointment for some of them is maybe why he's been overlooked. But ideally, from a St Mirren perspective, they'll be hoping just to hang on to him. He's well thought of. I think he's the highest paid manager they've had, and they'll be hoping that his next job's the Northern Ireland job, which is the one he really wants as well. But certainly there's going to be interest, and it will happen again this year as well. And he's doing too good a job not to be receiving recognition.
Yeah, there's always admiration about him. He's actually someone who Brendan Rodgers also talks of a lot fondly. Obviously, the Irish connection there as well. Now, St Mirren, Celtic, St Mirren, actually the last team Celtic have played competitively. Well, not well, the Scottish Cup final excluded. The last team that
Yeah.
Celtic played in the league on Trophy Day, Flag Day tomorrow. Now, St Mirren did a turn last time out. How do you feel about these trips to Celtic Park? Because I know, speaking to a lot of fans around the Scottish Premiership, they've got mixed feelings about it. It's a fixture to dread because there's little hope of real success, and there's the small possibility that Celtic are going to turn up on their day and do something pretty rubbish. But how do you feel about these games going to Celtic Park and Glasgow?
Yeah, I think ideally you wouldn't be going back to back, if you like, the end of the season and the start of the new one. But I think there's cautious optimism and kind of quiet confidence, if you like. Certainly not that you're going to show up and steamroll Celtic or do anything like that. But there's been enough shown, even in the defeats, that you can give a scare to Celtic. I don't know if it's just maybe been slightly different to other teams that go to Celtic Park. Stephen Robinson's quite keen to try and go on the press when he can. So it's look, you know what you're going into. You know it's going to be incredibly difficult. And if Celtic do turn up, it doesn't matter really how well you play. It's going to be a long afternoon. But I think there's reason to be kind of optimistic. Hopefully you just look at it as you've caught them first game of the season, maybe a little bit undercooked. But I think that's maybe looking for a stroke of luck because we know the quality that Celtic have, and it's going to be a really, really tough ask. But yeah, there is at least some confidence there that maybe you won't get the result, but the performance will be something you can be proud of anyway.
So Celtic have faced Sporting, Lisbon, and Newcastle and Ajax this summer. I said on the channel the other day, St Mirren's actually the toughest test we've got here, but just because it's just obviously when the competitive games start, it's much more different to pre-season games. There's a lot more physicality. It's a lot higher paced, and St Mirren have had a bit of practice in that with their League Cup. How are you feeling about what happened in the League Cup this summer, and how that might transfer to your early season form in the league?
Yeah, I think the first game in the League Cup was typically one where you watch it and you go, "Oh, this could be a long old season." But I think that's just the nature of how early it comes round, and players not been in the door yet. So there was a little fright there, I think. But they steadied the ship, beating Forfar, really doing really well against Annan, and then coming through against Ayr as well. So positive steps, but clearly there's still work to be done, and players that are kind of bedding in. When you look against going to Celtic Park, there's likely going to be 5 new starters. At least that's a pretty realistic estimate. So it's going to be difficult. They've shown they can get used to the Scottish game, but I think Celtic's a bit of an outlier in the Scottish game, if you like. It's not really like a lot of the other matches, so I think throughout the season they'll come good, but there might be a little sticky period at the start, so still kind of a work in progress, if you like.
And you were mentioning the transition and the kind of turnover and transfers. Is the bulk of St Mirren's business done, do you think, with a month left of the transfer window? But it feels like Stephen Robinson might have done his work early here.
Yeah, I think the bulk will be done. I think there'll be a few movements going the opposite direction. Not many people have left, other than players they knew were leaving at the end of their contract. So I think there's 21 first team players, which for St Mirren's quite a lot at this point in time. Quite often they run with a smaller squad with a few younger players involved. So I think the bulk will be done. I'm fairly certain they're still looking for a forward player, just to try and replace that gap left by Olasanya, because really there was nothing really like the raw direct running power that he brought. So I think he still wants to add there. But other than that, I think it will be fairly quiet. Little bit of chat about a midfielder, but I think it will be more squad boosting than someone coming in to really take a first team place. And then a lot of, or not a lot, but a couple of players heading for the exit door as well.
So what was seen as the weaknesses for Celtic up against St Mirren? Is it is it that physicality thing? Is it that going up against that kind of aggression that Celtic need to be wary of? Like, who are you seeing as a potential danger man for St Mirren on Sunday?
Yeah, it's weaknesses that there aren't many to pick from. I think the physical side of it is a lot what's given to St Mirren as their big strength, and make no mistake, it absolutely is their a physical side. They won't stop running till well into stoppage time. It's you're guaranteed that. I think it will be in turnover. Might be the way you can strike. The wing backs, you could get punished with this as well, but they fly forward, so they're going to be joining the attack. If you can pinch the ball in the middle, the kind of style of play, if you like, is get the ball forward very, very quickly, which you could say is long ball if you like, but then play in the right area. So I think it will be that quick transition, win the ball straight up the park, and then do your business round the edge of the box. Lots of balls into the box if you get the opportunity as well. So I think it's going to be that. It's going to be quick breaks, I think, more than anything, because there's a realistic point of view that they're not going to get lots of the ball. It's going to be a lot of defending. It's going to be a lot of running. So it'll just be making your mark in the moments when you get that chance. So I don't think there's a particular weakness. Maybe just when there's a bit of play in the middle of the park. If you can just strike, then pinch the ball and straight up, that's probably the best way that someone are going to get a chance and try and nick a goal.
I agree with that, to be honest. I think Celtic's issues in the transition are still a work in progress and something that needs to be addressed. And well, maybe if Benjamin Nygren's in the midfield as well, maybe he gets caught a bit flat-footed. But I'm personally hoping, obviously, to see Nygren have a good game in his first competitive appearance for Celtic. Listen, thanks, David. We'll give you a wee prediction. We'll give you the stage. Set the stage. You can look like a hero on Monday.
Look like a hero or look like a fool. I think I'm quietly confident they could nick a goal, but I don't see a win coming back to Paisley, that's for sure. So I'll go optimistic and I'll say one each, but I think that's not my head ruling with that.
Yeah, of course. And naturally, I mean, I would back Celtic to beat any team in the world as well.
Yeah. Especially
if I was on if it was on their kind of fan-focused channel, certainly, I would definitely as well. It was interesting chat, David. Thanks for giving us an insight into St Mirren. Really appreciate it. We'll maybe have you again on later in the season as things develop at St Mirren, and if there's any interesting chat around that. Good luck for the game on Sunday, and I hope you don't win. But listen, I like St Mirren. I've got an admiration for St Mirren, as I said, and I really do hope they have a good season and continue to fight their way into that top six and mix it up with some of the bigger clubs, bigger or richer clubs, shall we say. Thanks for joining us today. We'll see you again next time on the Celtic Way, everyone. Enjoy the game on Sunday, and we'll be back with our live coverage of the game before and after, with all the reaction to however Celtic versus St Mirren plays out. Goodbye.